Hey everyone, welcome back to XYZ Architect, where we make 3D metrology practical step by step. Today, I want to give you something more than just a tutorial. This is a full workflow that will help you structure your CMM programs in Calypso like a pro. We're going to go through my personal checklist developed over years of trial and error, and I'll show you exactly how to apply it in real time. Whether you're new to Calypso or already using it daily, this guide will help you structure speed and consistency. And if you want the full checklist as a downloadable PDF, it's available for free on my Patreon channel. Link is in the description below. Let's get started with preparation. This is where most people rush in and creates problems later. First, I've always asked for three things: a technical drawing, like I have right here, a CAD model, and one actual part that I have right here. The actual part is used to prepare the initial setup. Usually, I do this to see if the CAD and the drawing matches with the actual part, and to see if tool-related problems like burrs, dents, or deformations are presented on the part. Before I open Calypso, I clean the part, build the stylus system I need if it's not already built. Here where I work, we use RDSCN on our system, so most of the time I have everything ready, and after this I plan the fixturing. At this step, I open the drawing and highlight the datums and different setups. I also map the drawing according to numbering convention. Now we're ready to open Calypso. I create a new measurement plan and import the CAD model. Then I immediately save the plan using a naming convention that matches the project. Trust me, don't skip this. If you name your program Test 1 today, it will come back to haunt you next week. Once the CAD model is loaded, I adjust the color and the boundary if needed. Some people like to color the model like the real part. Others prefer grayscale with high contrast edges. Pick what works best for you. Then comes orientation. If the technical drawing specifies how the part should be aligned in XYZ, I follow that. If not, I'll keep the part aligned to match the machine axis. It just makes things easier down the line, especially for CNC execution. Alright, once the model is loaded and the file is saved, we move into one of the most critical parts of the program, the main alignment. Alignment is the backbone of the measurement strategy. If the alignment is off, everything else that follows, every feature, every characteristic, every result is going to be unreliable. So, take your time here. I start by extracting the features that will follow my base alignment. Usually I go straight to the datums defined in the drawing. Now, when you define the base alignment in Calypso, pay close attention to the constraint settings. You can right-click on a datum feature, go to the evaluation parameters, and set things like use actual geometry and constraints using ISO 5459 logic. That's great when your part is close to nominal, but be very careful. If the part is slightly deformed or if the machine surfaces aren't clean and flat, forcing an ISO constraint could lead to alignment errors. In those cases, I switch over to LSQ and avoid using strict constraints. Don't just follow the standard blindly. Use your judgment. If the part is rough or has multiple setups, I create a start alignment. This is just a quick and dirty alignment to get the machine in the ballpark so it can find the real datums more accurately during the base alignment. Once the alignments are in place, I go ahead and define the clearance cube. This ensures there's enough space between the stylus and all feature elements, and that we avoid any unwanted collisions during execution. And again, save your measurement plan now. This is one of those checkpoints where things can go wrong if you don't hit save. Now we move on to building the real core of the program, the features and the characteristics. Start by creating the features that are tied to the drawing's characteristics. Don't waste time measuring everything, just focus on what's functional and specified. For each feature, you'll need to assign a probing strategy. Depending on the feature type and tolerance, I'll use touching points or scanning paths. Then we move into defining the characteristics themselves. And this is where a lot of people get messy. Use meaningful names for features and characteristics. Don't just leave the default names like Plane 1 or Circle 2. Instead, follow a naming convention. For example, for position 3, we can use something like position 3 underline circle 1 for the features. And for the characteristic, we can use position 3.1 diameter 12.5. This helps your teammates, your future self, and even the operator make sense of what they're seeing in the report. Now, if I notice that a surface might be unstable or that I'll need to apply a formula later, I create help features. These are extra geometries that don't appear in the drawing, but are used to stabilize the alignments or calculated characteristics. Again, name them properly, like H underline position 3 circle 1, so you know they're help features. And once everything looks good, you guessed it, save the plan again. Now comes the part that most people overlook, fine-tuning the structure of the measurement plan. This doesn't just make the program cleaner, it actually makes it run smoother and prevents wasted time and awkward stylus changing during execution. The first thing I do is reorder the features. I arrange them in a logical sequence, usually grouped by stylus system, angle, or which side of the part they're on. This helps minimize rotations, stylus changes, and unnecessary movement of the measuring head. I personally group by stylus and angle. It's faster and keeps everything tight. Next, I arrange the characteristics by sections, views, or details. And if the technical drawings has multiple pages, I'll group them by the page number also. This way the report is easier to follow, especially if someone else is reviewing it. Then I move all theoretical and constructed features like intersections and projections to the bottom of the features list. You can skip this step if you prefer to keep constructed features near their parent elements. But for me, doing things this way keeps things cleaner. One thing to double check. If you're creating circles using the creating feature function in Calypso, make sure the inside-outside option is correctly set. This is a common source of errors and might cause probing collisions. Also, if you expect variation in the surface of the part, set a larger search distance. This gives the stylus room to find the surface without missing or crashing. And yes, once you're done organizing, save your progress again. Now it's time to go into the measurement plan editor, where we apply settings across multiple features to save a ton of time. First, I go to the Travel tab to assign clearance groups or sub-clearance groups. This makes sure that the probe lifts to safe distances and doesn't risk bumping into the fixture or the part between features. Then I adjust clearance and retract distances. I might set a large retract for tall parts or tighter ones if space is limited. For surfaces with expected variations like casting or flexible parts, I adjust search distance before and after the nominal, probing dynamics, measuring force if needed, and material detection. These are all under the probing tab. If the surface varies too much, you'll want to give the machine enough buffer so it doesn't error out or crash during measurement. Then comes stylus assignment. I make sure every feature has the correct stylus system, angle or RDS angles. Doing this here all at once, it's much faster than operating every single feature. After that, I move to geometry and apply filters or outliers elimination to scan features. Just be careful, don't set filters blindly. You'll need to understand the shape, size, and number of points. If it doesn't feel right to do this in bulk, take your time and adjust them feature by feature. Now, some programmers like to jump straight into changing evaluation types at the feature level. It's not wrong, but I prefer to leave that for the characteristic setting editor, where all evaluation logic lies. So in the characteristic setting editor, I adjust XYZ coordinates for positioning tolerances used for additional reporting, warning limits for visual alerts in the printout, number of decimal places. I usually don't use more than the drawing specifies. Here we can also use the characteristic attributes. I use things like inspection characteristics or critical characteristics if I need to tag them for later use. And finally, I go and set evaluation settings. Things like maximum inscribed for holes, outer tangential for planes, and so on. Once I'm happy with all of that, I save again the measurement plan. This part is all about feature proofing the measurement plan, because even if you're the one writing it today, someone else might be running it next week. So we need to make things easy for anyone to understand. First, I loop the measurement plan and set a prompt that appears at the end of each run, reminding the operator to change the part. If a feature needs to be probed manually, I add feature comments to explain exactly how it should be done. I also add the setup instruction by going to Plan and Measurement Run Info for CNC Start. This attaches a note that pops up when the CNC program starts, guiding the operator on how to fix the part. In addition, I add a measurement plan comment. This can be done under the Resources menu. This action can remind the user to press the User Info button to access those fixturing instructions. I also define the CNC end part position, so that the stylus moves out of the way automatically at the end of the cycle. That way, the operator doesn't have to manually move it before reaching the part. And if we're using auto-run, I add the measurement plan to that window and make sure everything's saved properly. Remember to always document as if someone else will run it without you standing next to them. We're almost done, but reporting is key. This is what the quality team, the customer, and sometimes even production will use to judge your work. So don't skip this. Go to Resources, Results to File, and set the number of results to be stored. You can also configure other options in this window. Then, under Resources, define Report, Default Report, select your Excel file template or whatever report format your company uses. To set headers like part number, operator, drawing number, part indent, or so on, go to Measurement, Multiple Report, and select Report Header Parameters. Finally, choose the type of the report that you want to generate and decide if the report should export automatically. Enable Print, TXT, or PDF output, whatever is needed, and make sure you know where the system saves it. And say it with me, save the plan one more time. Last but not least, validation. I run the full program at reduced speed, maximum 50 mm per second. I watch for motion issues, clearance problems, missed touches, or weird stylus behavior. If something feels off, I stop and fix it immediately. Now, if I see results that are either way out of tolerance or way too perfect, I dig in. That usually means something is wrong with the evaluation method, the filter or outlier settings, incorrect tolerances or nominals, unstable alignments, or unexpected variations in the part. Then I run a repeatability test by mounting and unmounting the part 5 times, measuring after each mount. If I'm not alone in the measuring room, I do a reproducibility test too, where each operator measures the part 3 times and we compare results. If either test fails, I go back and measure the base alignment features, not just once, but 3 times, at the beginning of the program, in the middle, and at the end. If you notice drift or instability, it might be the fixture, the feature selection, or even just a bad constraint setup. Adding a loop to the base alignment, especially for best fit or RPS types, can improve results massively. And once you're satisfied with everything, save the measurement plan one final time. So that's the full strategy, the same one I use for every reliable Calypso program I build. It's easy to forget a step when you are under pressure. That's why I created this checklist, and you can download it for free on my Patreon, no payment needed. Just click the link in the description below and join as a free member, and you'll get access to this checklist, my entire free video archive, and other useful tools. And if you want to go deeper, you can upgrade to a paid membership and unlock more structured learning paths. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more videos like this, and let me know in the comments what your measurement process looks like. I'd love to hear how you are working.